Point number 3 is that information is your best weapon. In the medicine world, really all we have to work on is information. We're not going to be doing the intervention with our hands. It's not surgery, okay? So the more information you can gather, the better decision you can make. Sometimes it's a little bit of information that not even the patient tells you, the family tells you. Sometimes the patient can't speak for themselves, so you have to gather information from bystanders, from family, from caretakers. So the more information you can gather, the better prepared you are to synthesize the information and make the best diagnostic and then therefore treatment decision possible. So basically every time you are taking care of a patient, you really should be asking a lot of questions. You probably have information from the endorsement or from what bystanders have told you, what's already written in the history, but it's never a bad thing to gather more information. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell if the information you're given is actually useful. Sometimes bits of information are, as they say, true, and unrelated. But gather as much information as possible. And with experience, you'll learn to interpret what information is relevant and what is not. Talk to the PCP. Talk to the outpatient specialists. Talk to the radiologists. Okay? The radiologists don't have the benefit of the patient right in front of them. I've never felt like I wasted my time speaking to a radiologist about a study. And the next point along those lines, do not dismiss objective data. It's been proven over and over again that people's memories are fallible, especially when it comes to things like eyewitness testimony, what you recall in court, the history that the patients give you. Sometimes it can even change if you're sitting there and the patient tells you one thing and then the family's at the bedside and they're like, no, it wasn't really like that, Nana. It wasn't really like that, Nana. Don't you remember? You did blah, blah, blah. And then your patient will be like, oh yeah, that's right. So the history is really important, okay, but it has to be taken in context. However, objective data, when it is true objective data, there are facts staring you in the face that don't fit with what you think is going on. Don't ignore it. Especially if it comes up repeatedly. Like let's say a lab seems like out of left field and it doesn't fit with your diagnosis. You repeat the lab and it's still not what you anticipated. It's still abnormal in a way that you didn't anticipate. Resist the urge to brush off that piece of data that doesn't fit with what you think. The saying is, date a diagnosis, don't marry a diagnosis. The point is, sometimes objective data stares you in the face and it doesn't fit in with what you're thinking. Don't dismiss it. Be wise enough to realize that sometimes what you're thinking is not actually what the correct diagnosis is. You can be wrong. And so, oftentimes the objective data is staring you in the face. And it's very tempting to just say, let's not worry about that. Let's not ignore that. That's the data that you can't ignore. That's the data that you need to pay attention to and say, okay, well, this doesn't fit in. I need to reframe my way of thinking or come up with an alternate explanation. So very important, do not ignore objective data. Try and be flexible and maybe just a little bit slightly emotionless when it comes to trying to get the best diagnosis.